Morning, all. All right, so news of the day video plus a preview of tonight's hockey. We have 12 games tonight in the National Hockey League, so some very busy days between now and the playoffs because we have a bunch of games to get done. Most teams have around 24 games left in the season, and the season ends April 17th. So you do the math and you figure out there's going to be some very busy teams between now and then. So starting off with the news, at the top of the board, Chris Tanev. They avoid the worst case scenario for Tanev. He's considered only day to day. He is unlikely to play Friday, but the fact that there's even a chance of him playing Friday tells you he's not going to miss that much time. And Tanev's a warrior. He won't miss games that he feels like he can play in. So, yeah, Tanev should not be out for that long. Adam Fox, on the other hand, he's been placed on injured reserve, and we don't know how long he's going to be out. So he's going to be evaluated, and then we'll get a better idea of the timeline after that evaluation process is done. The team is going to try something different on the power play. Peter Laviolette wouldn't confirm nor deny that they're going to try this in their next game, but they've been basically testing out the five forwards on the power play idea, which other teams have been doing. The one thing that I always throw out there is it might help your power play score more goals. It could also lead to more shorthanded goals against. Once that puck gets turned over during your power play, no one on the ice is a penalty killer. So unless you've got some really good two-way forwards out there, it can get kind of scary kind of quickly. So we'll see what the Rangers do in that next game, but they're going to be without Fox for at least a week, and then we'll see how much longer it might go on beyond that. Matthew Tkachuk is going to be out at least through this weekend. So Matthew Tkachuk is going to miss weeks worth of action as a result of the injury suffered at Four Nations. And we'll see if it impacts Florida's chances of winning the division. They are right close with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they also have to look over their shoulder because Tampa Bay is not far behind them. So we'll get into that when we get into the preview part. But for Florida, it kind of feels like crunch time, although we know that by middle of April, everybody will be fine, and then they start another run. Trent Frederick is out week to week. Frederick is a player that's been talked about a lot on the trade block. This is going to affect how much he fetches in a trade if he gets traded at all now. Week to week, I generally view as being at least 2 weeks. And so that takes you beyond the trade deadline. So a team trading for Frederick would be trading for damaged goods at this point in time. And I do think that drops down the price that Boston can charge for him. So we'll see if he gets moved. He is a pending unrestricted free agent. So it is still likely he gets traded, but an injury could affect that. Michael Bunting is going to be out for a while. He had an appendectomy, and so I mean, you can be out for a week, 2 weeks. It really depends on the player. The one that's most famous in my mind is Patrick Roy, who was not out for that long after he got an appendectomy. I don't think it was a full 2 weeks for him, but it really does depend on the player. It depends on a number of factors, of course. So we'll see how long Bunting's out, of course, for Pittsburgh. They're not in the hunt for the playoffs at this point. It just means one player that likely won't be getting traded at the deadline, and Bunting either. The Edmonton Oilers yesterday reclaimed Travis Dermott on waivers. They were the only ones that put in a claim. So, because they originally had Dermott, now they were able to send him back down to the AHL. They did not have to put him on waivers again. So, Dermott's bouncing around the NHL at this point in time. There are always players that go through that. I always feel bad for them too because you don't make as much money usually in the AHL as you do in the NHL. If you're on a two-way deal, you don't. And now you're getting moved around because of waivers, and job security can be kind of tough to find for some of those players. But anyways, that is the news portion. Let's go ahead and get into the extensive schedule for tonight. So we've got 12 games tonight in the NHL. We got 3, 6, 7 of them starting at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. Then one starts a half an hour later, one a half an hour after that, and then there's a 9 o'clock Eastern start and two 10 o'clock Eastern starts. So it's a little more spread out than it was on Tuesday, but it's still a busy night. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between the New York Islanders and the Boston Bruins. The Islanders are 25, 25, and 7. They're 5 and 5 in their last 10. They are 7 points behind Columbus for that final playoff spot in the East. Boston, 27, 24, and 8 overall. They're 4, 4, and 2 in their last 10 games. They're 2 points behind the Columbus Blue Jackets for that final playoff spot in the East. So both of these teams trying to stay or get closer to that playoff line. And for the Islanders, they're right on that borderline of being in contention for or not in contention for the playoffs. 7 points is tough to make up with so few games left. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between San Jose and Montreal. The Sharks, 15, 36, and 8 on the season. They're 1, 8, and 1 in their last 10. They are 27 points behind Vancouver for that final playoff spot in the West. Whereas Montreal, 27, 26, and 5 overall, 3, 6, and 1 in their last 10 games. They're 5 points behind Columbus in that race for the final playoff spot in the East. So they're on the verge of maybe staying or maybe not. And honestly, 5 points is a lot to make up with so few games left as well. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Detroit Red Wings. Columbus, 28, 22, and 8 overall, 5, 4, and 1 in their last 10. They're 6 points behind both New Jersey and Carolina for third/second place in the division. Detroit, 30, 22, and 6. They're 8, 1, and 1 in their last 10. They're 4 points behind Tampa Bay for third place in the division. And yesterday on Sportsnet, when they were trying to figure, okay, which teams do you think are going to make the playoffs as a wild card, even though I was yelling, what about Detroit at the TV? Nobody picked Detroit to make the playoffs. So I find that weird that Detroit still, within some in the media, not getting recognized as the fact that, they're going to get there. And I was shocked by how many seem to think the Rangers are going to, make. And I think really it is that because we expect coming into this season, the Rangers will be a playoff team. And the Rangers are only 2 points back. But, Detroit's been playing so well, and they have since the coaching change. I don't see how Detroit falls out. It's possible. I'm not saying they don't. I just thought that was weird. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between Calgary and Tampa. The Flames, 28, 21, and 8 overall. They're 4, 5, and 1 in their last 10. They are 1 point behind Vancouver for that second wildcard spot. Tampa Bay, 33, 20, and 4 overall. They're 7, 2, and 1 in their last 10, and they're only 3 points behind Florida for second place in the division. They have snuck up there. 6 straight wins will do that. And so for the Tampa Bay Lightning, it's been a lot of fun for them over the last few weeks. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between the Oilers and the Florida Panthers. It is the Stanley Cup final rematch. The Oilers, 34, 20, and 4 overall. They are 4, 5, and 1 in their last 10, and now they're only 2 points ahead of LA in second place in that division. So LA, third place, but they're getting closer. Florida, 35, 21, and 3 overall. They're 7 and 3 in their last 10 games. They are 1 point behind Toronto for first place in the division. As mentioned, they're without Tkachuk, a little bit banged up. And they did send 8 players to that Four Nations, so a little bit banged up. But they're right there with Toronto. If they win tonight, they pass Toronto. Yes, Toronto does have games in hand if that happens. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between St. Louis and Washington. So the Capitals at home took a rare loss against Calgary. We'll see how they do against St. Louis. The Blues are 27, 26, and 6 overall. They're 4, 4, and 2 in their last 10. They're 5 points behind Vancouver for that last wild card spot. The Washington Capitals, 38, 12, and 8 on the season. They're 5, 2, and 3 in their last 10. So their last 10, the record hasn't been fantastic, but they're 14 points ahead of New Jersey and Carolina. As I've mentioned previously with the Jets, the issue can sometimes be that motivation that you have isn't quite as strong as the motivation of your opponents because you don't really have anything to worry about. You lose that game, you're still, a lot of points ahead of second place. It's not as big a deal. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between Buffalo and Carolina. The Sabres, 24, 27, and 5 on the season. They're 7 and 3 in their last 10, but it's not noticeable because they're still 11 points behind Columbus. So for Buffalo, there's still a chance they end up with a winning record at the end of the season, but Buffalo fans want playoffs or just don't talk to them about it. Carolina, 33, 21, and 4 overall. They're 4, 5, and 1 in their last 10. They are tied with New Jersey. New Jersey and Carolina both having struggles right now, which does open a door for Columbus if they can go on a bit of a run here. But keeping in mind Columbus is on the road in Detroit, and Columbus does not have a great road record, and Detroit at home has been pretty good. So Carolina will have a chance to get things going against Buffalo, which sounds like, yeah, they should. However, they're coming off a shutout loss against Montreal, so you just never know. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific start. It's the Battle of Pennsylvania again, so rematch from where they were a couple days ago, in that this time it's in Pittsburgh. Philadelphia, 26, 26, and 7 overall. They're 4, 5, and 1 in their last 10 games. They're 5 points behind Columbus in that final playoff spot. Pittsburgh, 23, 28, and 9 overall. They're 3, 6, and 1 in their last 10. They are 9 points behind Columbus and that final playoff spot in the East. I don't think they're going to make it. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific start between Winnipeg and Nashville. So Winnipeg on the second half of a back-to-back, but they've won 11 in a row. They're 42, 14, and 3 are the Winnipeg Jets. 10 and 0 in their last 10, of course. And now they're 11 points ahead of Dallas atop the division. Nashville 20, 38, or 20, 30-7, not 38 yet. And they're 2-8 in their last 10 games. They're 18 points behind the Vancouver Canucks for that final playoff spot. So Nashville may very well miss the playoffs this year. Hot takes. 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific start between Minnesota and Utah. The Utah Hockey Club hosting the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota 34-20-4. They're 6-4 in their last 10, dealing with a lot of injuries. They're 4 points behind Dallas for second place in the division. Utah 26-24-9 overall. They're 5-3-2 in their last 10. They are 4 points behind Vancouver in that final playoff spot in the West. As I mentioned in a news video yesterday, this is what's holding up the trade deadline. Is there are so many teams within 5 points of a playoff spot. Well, why are you just going to flat out sell when you're still technically close? 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific start between Chicago and Vegas. This is in Vegas, so good luck, Chicago. The Blackhawks 17-34-7 overall. They're 2-6-2 in their last 10. They're 24 points behind Vancouver for that final playoff spot. They might miss. The Vegas Golden Knights 34-18-6 overall. A very un-Vegas-like 4-4-2 in their last 10. But they're still 2 points clear of Edmonton because Edmonton has been struggling lately as well. 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific start between the Vancouver Canucks and the Anaheim Ducks. Vancouver 27-20-11 overall. 6-3-1 in their last 10, and they're only 5 points behind LA now for third place in the division after that overtime win last night. Anaheim 25-25-7 overall, 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. They're 8 points behind Vancouver for that final playoff spot. So very unlikely Anaheim makes it, but a direct win over Vancouver, and especially if Tampa Bay wins against Calgary, then you could see Anaheim within 6 points of a playoff spot after tonight. So Vancouver can't take them lightly. Vancouver also has to deal with the fact they're on a back-to-back. Anaheim isn't, so energy levels and all that fun stuff. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, including your picks for tonight. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.